Welcome everyone, today we have a new leveling and also build guide for Diablo 4. And in this video, we'll be focusing on the rogue. As you guys can see behind me, we have a pretty much level 50 build for the rogue. And also over here, we have a leveling planner and also Codex planner for the rogue as you go through each of the acts. So over here, I have listed the highlights of each of the acts with the codex of the dungeons available for the rogue. And this will allow us to see which of the codex that can best benefit us as we level through the acts and also as we go through those dungeons. So this video will be combined into two parts. The first part will look into the step-by-step leveling process for the rogue and also which of the skills, which of the build to go for. The second part of the video will be looking at the best codex for the rogue to be crafting for each of the acts. Now coming over to the first part of the video. So let's start with the rogue, and this is what I planned if I was leveling up the rogue. And I'm still undecided, likely I'll be playing the barbarian, but my friend will be playing the rogue. So we'll be going through the similar process as I level up the rogue. So what I'll do is I'll go into 2 points into puncture, so 1 point over here and also this upgrade. Now over here, we'll go with Twisting Blade, and I do plan to play the Twisting Blade rogue. Now if you guys do find yourself, going for a flurry or barrage, this also works. So here I'll be going for 1 point of Twisting Blade, and here we'll go for the upgrade. And now we just go with 1 more point of Twisting Blade. We don't need the cooldown reduction for now, because we don't have any spells, right? And here once we get to level 7 or level 8, we'll go with Shadow Step and also Dash, which provide us with 2 active abilities for a lot more damage and also mobility. And now what I'll do is, I'll come back over to Twisting Blade, I'll level this one to level 4, and actually I'll go for level 5. So once we get to level 5, we have the next level of the stages. And here what I plan to do is, I plan to max out Poison Trap. Now Poison Trap is a very underrated spell that does a lot of damage at the start of the game. So notice over here, it's 482% damage with poison damage over 9 seconds. And this is going to be the best spell for us to be taking down the bosses and also elites. And once we level up Poison Trap, notice that once we get to level 5, we can also be going for 2 of the imbuements. So over here, we'll be going with the Shadow imbuement first, and then we'll go with the Poison imbuement. Now as I go with the Poison imbuement, I'll be perking out the final point over here. And this allows me to take away Shadow Step and go for double imbuement. Now I'll be going with vulnerability for the Shadow imbuement, and also I'll be going with the resets for both of the imbuement. So now this is pretty much a hybrid rogue, which allows me to have a range ability, a melee ability, a mobility ability, a lot of damage over time, and also resets for both of my imbuements. Now as I'm leveling, I don't plan to have the high burst damage with the Shadow Clone, or I don't plan to use any of the ultimates, but you can be trying those to test it out of course. But what I do plan to do is, I plan to level up the Poison imbuement as well, and I plan to get this one to level 5 and also its double duration. And around this time, my next goal is to get to my key passive. So here we'll be going with some of the upgrades that provide us with more damage and also more utility. Okay, a little too much, right? So we want to be around level 34 mark to be going for one of the keystone abilities. Now yes, you can go with the marksman or cutthroat ability that provide more attack speed, but ideally I do think momentum is going to be the best spell for us to be providing more utility and also more movement. Now at this stage of the game, we'll be going for a lot more passives, like the Shadow imbuement over here, which provide us with more regeneration when we kill shadow enemies. And here we can be going for additional damage against vulnerable enemies, and also here, additional damage when we move around, and also additional resource gain and also attack speed. Now because we also have the Poison imbuement, we can also enjoy the additional damage against poison enemies, and also we can go with additional attack speed against enemies. So this will take us around somewhere to level 50 with about 6 Reno, and this is not bad if you plan to play the Hyper Rogue. Now for the case that if you plan to not play the double Hyper Rogue, I still recommend using the Poison Trap for the most sustained damage. But over here we'll be going with Dark Shroud, which is going to be replacing Poison imbuement, and also this allows us to go for more passives, which give us more stats. So what I'll do is, I'll have both of those builds available for you guys if you want to be going for the Hyper Rogue, or if you want to be going for the Shadow imbuement for the Poison Rogue. And those will be the best 2 builds I want to go for leveling up the Rogue from level 1 to level 50. Now hopefully I didn't go too fast with the skill trees, because I want to show you guys how I want to path out each of the trees, and I also want to show you guys 2 variations of the build. Now there can be more variation of the builds, because if you guys are planning and if you guys are interested, we can also be taking out Dark Shroud for the defensive capacities, and we can be going for the Shadow Clone, which will provide us with more damage. But ideally, I like a bit of defensiveness in the later game, so either I'm going with full offense with double imbuement, or I'm going with 1 defensive capacities with additional critical stats over here. Now, if you guys haven't subscribed, it is a really good time to do so, because I'll be covering tons of Diablo 4 related topics and also videos and also guides. We'll be looking to the top meta builds, non-meta builds, leveling up, and also Paragon tricks. We're also looking to the latest events and also official updates, and also changes to different characters and also different builds in the game. So make sure you hit that subscribe button and also turn the notification on, because a lot of you who are watching the videos have not subscribed. You can see 80% of the viewers who are watching our videos have not subscribed, so make sure you subscribe to stay tuned for the latest update for Diablo 4. Now coming over to the second part of the video. So similar to our Barbarian build, what I want to do is I spend the time and also the energy to go through all of the Codex over here to see which of the Codex is available in which of the act and how do you get those Codex. And also I did a bit of the personal ranking of the Codex going from red, yellow, green to blue. Which means that if I'm playing a rogue, this is what I want to see if I'm clearing for different dungeons, for the melee build, for the range build, or for any of the build, that can be great. Now if you guys do want the notes over here, those will be available in the description in the links below. So what you're going to see is here we'll go through each of the acts and I'll focus on each of the codex that is available for the rogue. Now notice that some of those particular dungeons are optional to be cleared, and if you're going for a melee build, I do recommend clearing out the Flurry dungeon, which is a Forsaken Quarry. So the Forsaken Quarry is located over here. It is towards the north of the main city, and this is one of the dungeons I recommend to be going for the rogue. Now yes guys, you're not going for a Flurry build at the start because you're going right away into Twisting Blade, right? But what I do recommend is, if at the start, if you're not going with Twisting Blade, which we plan to go with an inner sight rogue. I forgot to mention that. So yes, our rogue specialization with Twisting Blade will be inner sight. But everything can work perfectly, so what I'll do is I'll show you guys over here. So everything can work perfectly if you're going with Flurry. So let me quickly go over here, and what I want to show you guys is all of skill points, right? So let me quickly get the rest of the skill points. What I want to show you guys is, if you're to leveling up the rogue and if you find yourself Twisting Blade a little slow at the start of the game, because you only get the legendary for the Twisting Blade at the second act. And in the first act, you can be going with a Flurry combo rogue. And this is one of the alternatives I'll be providing to you guys. So everything will be the same, except at the start of the act, you can be going for the Act 1 dungeon, which will provide you guys with the AoE damage for Flurry. And this also increases damage by 8%. So if you're going for a melee rogue, this can be a really good start at the start of Act 1. Now over here, you can also see the additional dungeons that is available for the rogue, including that attacking elite monsters with basic skills give us more energy, and also grenade counters traps, which is going to be an interesting build, but we probably don't need that for leveling. Now one of the possibilities is going to be the Lost Archive. I do believe the Lost Archive is over here. I forgot to highlight it. But this Lost Archive can be great defensively for the rogue. So if you ever need to find this dungeon for the more defensiveness, you can come back over here for the dungeon to be cleared. Now as we progress through the story and also the campaign, we'll also be getting free codex and also the free unlocks with certain codex. In the first dungeon or in the first act, this is not a big deal, because we're not really needing the traps to make enemies more vulnerable. Now what is going to be special on the second act is that we'll be getting a Twisting Blade special codex, which allows this to be circling around us and also returns to deal more damage. And from what the information that is available over here, so this is the legendary aspects, the Blade Dancer legendary aspects. And if you guys are wondering which of the dungeon to go for, what I saw on the research is that this codex will be available by clearing out the story campaign for Act 2. So what you want to do is, you want to push through the story for Act 2 and then crafting your Twisting Blade legendary so you can be going for the full build. Now in Act 2, there's also some interesting dungeons we can be going for if you're going for the range build, and if you're going for the melee build, you can also go in for this dungeon. Now one of the reasons we don't have a map for Act 2 is that because we don't have the official information in the open beta for Act 2, so I didn't include any of the data that is not in the beta with official information. But once the game starts, we'll be adding those to the builds. So what I recommend is, we can be clearing out Hollow Warren for the additional chance of marksman skills that procs the additional ring of arrows, which can be additional damage. And yes, in case you guys are wondering, our marksman spell is actually Puncture. Puncture is a marksman spell, and this can be beneficial to deal additional damage using Puncture as a ranged spell to deal additional damage by summoning rings of arrows. Now over here, we also have a few of the other dungeons which I do recommend if you guys have time to clear those for the rogue build. including casting dash, which provides us with a shadow clone that deals more damage, and also the skills will deal 10% more damage with a base of resource, and also basic abilities will empower the next core spell. Now for this one, it is more towards a combo rogue because you want to use the alternation of base ability and also core spells. For the infinite energy inner sight rogue, well, it won't be a big difference, but this can still be good for additional damage. Now I'm sure you guys noticed I had some typos over there, I took them out already. Because this is a copy of the Barbarians build, and some of the skills are similar to the Barbarians, I accidentally copied the Barbarians. You'll be like, how come Rogue can use Barbarian skills, right? So over here you can see as you progress through the story, you'll be unlocking 2 of the Codex. One of those will be essential for the melee rogue build, and this will be for my leveling build. The second one, not much so, because it won't be standing still a lot. I don't recommend going for this Codex unless you'll be standing still. Now as we move over to Act 3, there are 2 dungeons I'm really recommending to be clearing for any of the class, and this is the Buried House and also the Dark Raven. What this allows us to do is, this gives us bonus attack speed for the basic attacks abilities, and this also allows us to grant ourselves with 20% damage reduction for 2 seconds each time we attack with basic spells, and this is going to be pretty massive, right? So I do recommend going for those 2 dungeons if you start with any of the class. Now over here, we can also see a few of the other codex that can be available that can provide us with additional resource regeneration and also additional energy when killing enemies. Because most of our enemies will be vulnerable because of the shadow imbuement, I do recommend going for the Shifting City for more energy gain. Now if you guys want to deal more damage with Dark Shroud, which I don't recommend, it's not a big deal, you can be going for this one as well. And finally, as you clear through the story campaign of the Dren Steppes, you can also be getting a special codex that allows your imbuement spells to deal additional explosion when you apply the imbuement. Now as we come over to the 4th act, I do recommend going for the Dark Shroud Codex if you guys are planning to go with this codex. This is actually pretty nice, because as you get free Dark Shroud, you can be saving your skills activation. And yes guys, if you're going for the range ability, for the range marksman, and if you're going with Barrage as your core spell, you do want to be going for this dungeon. Actually, I forgot to list it over here. I'll be listing those dungeons correctly. I'm a little rushed with the notes. So here, there are 3 of the dungeons I forgot to list. I'll be listing those over here. And in case you guys are wondering where I'm finding those from, I'll show you guys over here. So what I do is I come over here and I look at the dungeons and I type in the dungeons myself personally for the Shadow Plunge for the Barrage spells. And finally, for the rogue, as you guys come over to Act 5, I do recommend clearing out the Inferno, which allows enemies who are vulnerable to have a 30% chance to grant us the 3% critical chance rate, up to 9% critical chance against vulnerable enemies. And because we have so much vulnerability, this one's really good for the rogue. And similarly, if you guys are getting more critical strikes, you can be going for more movement speed by hitting critical strikes with this particular dungeon with Sevatar Ruins. Now if you guys are finding yourself short on defensive capacities, we can also go with a House of the Damned, which allows us to get 25% more armor by dealing damage. Now as we clear out through the campaign for Act 5, I do recommend consider this free legendary codex that will be unlocked. And if you guys are going with my double imbuement build, which can enjoy the double reset of the imbuement, it is gonna be really nice to go with the imbuement spells that have 20% more potency against vulnerable enemies. Means you'll deal more damage and also more abilities to be resetting those imbuements. Now hopefully you guys found this video helpful. I try to not make the video too long because I can't be going with too many details, too many legendaries. I want to make the video short enough for you guys to be building from level 1 to level 50. But I also want to go into more details with all the available codex in the dungeon for each of the acts, which gives you a better route to be going for which of the dungeons you want in each of the acts. And this will help you to clear through the story and also get to level 50 and also level 70 much faster. So let us know in the comments below guys, which of the build are you going to go for? Are you going to go for a range rogue, melee rogue, poison rogue, which of the rogue are you going to go for? And also which of the dungeons are you going to be most excited about? For me, this is definitely going to be the legendary for the Twisting Blade. Now before you go, and if you guys didn't know, we have a new YouTube channel. And if you guys haven't subscribed, make sure you subscribe and check out the behind the scenes and also fun clips and also more stories about us. And then you get to know me a little more personally instead of just reading the news and also the games, right? So I want to share a little bit more with you guys. So make sure you check this channel out if you're interested about Matt and also Uni. She's really funny too. And she's really shy. So I want to give her a surprise and do a shout out for the new channel to get some subscribers. Thank you guys. I'll see you guys next time.